The Felon puts out a racist tweet. Tulsi Gabbard's apparently looking at ballots from 2020. What's going on? Let's look into it. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, and commenting on the videos, and sharing the videos on your own social media platforms, which I know a number of you do. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you've given through the super thanks or buy me a coffee, it's greatly appreciated. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So there's several things I want to look at today. They're kind of perhaps a little bit of a hodgepodge of topics, but that's okay. I want to look at, will there be any repercussions for this racist tweet from the Felon? What exactly is Tulsi Gabbard doing? And does this backfire on the Felon? And I want to look at the Virginia Supreme Court, which may or may not hear a case about whether Virginia can redraw their maps. And then I want to check in on Putin's health, Netanyahu's health, and then will Kamala run in 2028? So let's start with the racist tweet. So if you don't know about this, it was pretty all over the news, actually. They actually referred to it as racist. I was actually somewhat shocked by the media. Apparently, the Felon has said he will not apologize for it, but I do believe the tweet got taken down. It's not worth describing, but it was targeted at the Obamas. So will there be repercussions for this? And why did he do it? The why he did it part, I think, is actually really easy to answer. One, first of all, let me just preface, this is a tarot reading. It's for entertainment purposes only. I could be right, I could be wrong. The reasons he did it, number one is he's a racist. And number two is he has made so many of the white supremacists, gun owners, mad with the way he's talked about guns, because he's not very smart, that I think this was an attempt to repair this. I highly doubt he was the one that pushed the send button. This feels more like Stephen Miller to me. So I think that's why it was done, was to try to appease white supremacists and because he's a racist. Okay, but will there be repercussions? And I really think there will. Yeah, the abuse of power, the Emperor card. I mean, the Obamas are private citizens. Yes, they're public figures, but, attacking George and Mary up the street wouldn't go over very well. I just don't think this is going to go over very well. The Empress card. I wonder if this didn't originate in Russia. Truth Social's got to be dripping with Russian bots and Russian misinformation campaigns. Giving and receiving. Again, I think this was done in an attempt to appease the white supremacists. The Four of Cups, people aren't really going for it. This turned off more people than the white supremacists were always going to vote for him. They might not vote, but they were always going to vote for him if they did. Is this going to drive them to the polls in the midterms? No. They either were going to vote or they weren't. And I think, for the average person, this is a big turnoff. The Nine of Wands guardrails, people are done. That's really what the energies are. The energies are people are done. You look at the polling data, which you have to be careful about reading polls. We've talked about that a number of times, but it basically says one thing. People are done. They don't want the chaos. They think he's hurting the economy, which he is. Healthcare costs have skyrocketed. People are losing healthcare. People are having a hard time. And they're done. The death card. I think, in this reading, the death card's very symbolic, but what it is it's the end. It's the end of him really having this big sway. Republicans came out against this tweet. Then it was taken down, and then it's I won't apologize, which is, he never apologizes for anything, so that's not surprising. But I really think he's losing power. The Five of Pentacles, it makes him look really poor. And it makes him appear to not be in control. And while I do think that Stephen Miller probably orchestrated the retweet or the retruth or whatever they call these things, it's not going to have the effects people think it's going to have. And I think Stephen Miller's on his way out, as I've said many times. The King of Wands, Democrats are going to pounce on this, excuse me, quite easily, because it's not hard to be like, if a high school student did this, they would be expelled. If a college student did this, they'd probably be expelled. It's because it's not harmless. There's nothing harmless about this. Republicans will try to frame it that way, but there really isn't anything harmless about what he's doing. The Seven of Wands, I think he's illusioned and delusioned. I think everybody around him, well, not everybody, but a lot of people around him are illusioned and delusioned. I think the abuse of power is to kind of tear at the guardrails of decency, but it's not going to overall work. Yes, the Republicans will go along with it, but the voters aren't going to, and that's more important. He's realizing he's losing relevance, and therefore he's trying to be provocative and offer tidbits to the groups of populations that he thinks can sway primary elections. Now, it's getting kind of late to already, if you haven't already recruited a candidate, it's pretty late. I'm pretty sure Russia's all over this. The American people don't want what they're selling. And Democrats are going to use this to their advantage. And really, it's just another symbol that, his power's coming to an end. And he knows it. He knows he's irrelevant. He knows that no laws are going to be passed in this election year. He knows Republicans are going to lose in 2026, at least the House. He knows that his time is done. Democrats are going to use this strategically and in wise ways. So the King of Cups there. I think, did this cause the end of his presidency? No. Is it fodder to help Democrats? Yes. Is it going to sway a large number of voters? No. But the voters that were already moving away from him, it just cements it. There's no reason to move back to him now. This isn't helping his case. So I do think that's what's going on. So what is Tulsi Gabbard doing in Fulton County? I've waited a while to read on this. I'm pretty sure I know what cards are gonna pop up here, but to me this is just a big giant distraction, and it's a big trying to stroke his ego so that he can feel better about himself, because he is just an insecure, tiny-hand man. I don't know how else to say it. The idea that people rejected him in 2020 is too much for him to take. And so they're going to come up with something. Of course, nobody's going to believe anything they say because there was no proper chain of custody. A third party should have been handling this, right? I mean, it's all nonsense. It's kind of like the cyber ninjas in Arizona. I don't really think it's anything to worry about. I just think it's kind of nonsense. The Temperance card, this story will disappear as soon as he's gone. The World card, this is about you know, kind of his last hurrah into trying to aim at President Biden. And the Ten of Cups, families, reunions, and celebrations. And of course, this is one of our cards for Epstein. It's not coincidental that this is going on at the same time that all these documents get released that has his name all over it. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, Tulsi Gabbard went along with it, but like Hillary Clinton said back in 2016, she's a Russian asset. She really is. Like I've read on this a number of times over the last year. That's what she is. She promotes Russian thoughts. She promotes Marxist ideas. You know, the Five of Cups loss. He can't handle the loss. That's really what it's about. She's hoping to move up. This is her weird play for vice president, I think. When the felon passes, I don't think it will work because I don't think Vance is going to do anything anybody tells him to do. I think he will make his own terrible choices that we'll have to deal with. The Fool card, you know, this is an unfortunate new reality here. It was inevitable. It was going to happen. I mean, at some point during his presidency, did you really think he wasn't going to go after the 2020 election? I mean, Jack Smith's testimony was really damning. And so he's going to try to justify it by the election was stolen. It's not going to work. First of all, the election wasn't stolen, one. And two, you know, even if it were, this doesn't excuse the insurrection. There's going to be a lot of movement after this administration's over that's going to shock a lot of people and pull us back into some sort of semblance of reality. I really do believe that. This is a defining moment, but it's not defining in the way that they think it is. It's actually a defining moment for the country to look and go, you know, what the hell? I mean, 70% of the country doesn't think the 2020 election was stolen. He's out on a limb here. Here he is in the environment around the King of Pentacles and the voters, which is, of course, what we're talking about, the Four of Wands. So, you know, this will disappear after he's dead. Then we'll have this new beginning. And voters will look at this in a very, I think, stabilized way of realizing that he's an insecure man that can't handle losing. And that's unacceptable because he's ruined so much in the country already. You know, this is an unfortunate crossroads that started down this new beginning. And I think most of the reason why, with the Two of Wands, the Fool card, and the Ten of Cups, is because of Epstein. I really do think that's the case. You know, he lost one. His life cycle's coming to an end. The World card along with his card. And that's inevitable. And this is kind of their way of appeasing him so that they can keep him from doing more dangerous things. I'm not saying they're doing good, because they're not. They're doing terrible. But, you know, it's just easier. This will also be part of his legacy. So, you know, the Ten of Pentacles, people are going to look back at this time period, and it's going to be a major repositioning. There are going to be, you know, branches of Christianity that are basically going to fall to the wayside in 10, 15 years because they're going along with this stuff. And that's not really what their dogma's about. And, you know, they're the driving force behind a lot of this. Think of the creepy Ryan Walters of Oklahoma. You know, they all happen to be super religious, right? Really what they're doing is they're taking religion hostage. This happened Before them, by the way. This, I mean, started happening when Jerry Falwell took over the PTL, and we could get all into that. But anyhow, that's what it's ultimately about. So will this backfire on him? Does this backfire on him? And then we'll look at the Virginia Supreme Court. That one has me a little worried. And then we'll look at Putin, Netanyahu, and Vice President Harris. Okay. Will this backfire? Their whole plan is to make you think that elections are not secure. That's their whole plan. And there's good reason to worry, but there's also good reason not to. There's an election almost every single Tuesday, or Saturdays in some states. And, you know, Democrats have been winning the majority of them. Races they shouldn't even win. They're, you know, it's going to be okay. Yes, fiery messages, the Knight of Wands here. This is going to lead to, I think, Gabbard's impeachment. I think she will get impeached. I think Kristi Noem's already going to get impeached. I think a number of them are going to end up in jail when the Democrats take over in 2029. That's a long ways away from now, so we need to be diligent until then. We need to continue our protests. We need to continue, you know, influencing in the ways that we can. And we definitely need to make sure we're getting people registered to vote, and voting, making sure we're still registered to vote. The judgment card is going to be harsh judgment around this. It's going to be seen as an attack on the African-American community, the same way that the racist tweet is. And people that are just decent human beings that understand this. You know, he lost Georgia by 11,000 votes or whatever, but it's only Fulton County. I mean, why wouldn't the votes have come from Chatham County, where Savannah is? I mean, if you really think about it, there's a reason why they targeted Atlanta. Voters are smart enough to discern this, the Queen of Wands. Expect him to be volatile until the end. That's just, unfortunately, what our future holds. Hopefully that end isn't long. I don't think it is, but it's really hard to get a grasp on his energies because they're so, you know, mushy. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, you know, trying to find a piece of eggshell in an entire bowl of egg salads. You know, it's like trying to pick up on the little nuances. They're just not there anymore. It's just mush. Everything's homogenized in his brain. It's just not easy to pick up anymore. The Page of Swords, the spy in the camp. People will flip. People will tell the tales. This is why people will go to jail. The Four of Cups. The people aren't going to have it. The courts aren't going to have it. Yep, the courts, the Hierophant. They're not going to buy the excuses. This is not about election integrity. Those votes were counted, hand-counted, recounted by Republicans and Democrats. If you've ever worked as an election official, you know how hard it is that to skew anything, because you have both parties there. You don't send the information over the internet. That's not how the votes are transmitted. You might put them on a thumb drive. Some cases you make a phone call, give some verification. You watch the Secretary of State update their website to make sure that that fits the numbers that you gave them before they proceed. It's a much more intricate process than you think. That's why he'd like to nationalize things, right? That's not going to happen. The Republicans have already shut that down. But, you know, this individual precincts doing things individually is the reason why it is so hard to do anything. Suspect. The Ace of Swords. The truth is will come out about them and why they did this. And I think Republicans are already having a lot of anxiety about this. So I expect really powerful messages coming out in the future about this. Expect people to turn the Knight of Wands and the Page of Swords. Expect Tulsi Gabbard to have a lot of sleepless nights about this action in the future. I really do think she will face some sort of prosecution. The courts are going to get involved. It'll be backed up with testimony from inside the Hierophant and the Page of Swords. And voters in the courts and juries will be able to use their discernment and say, this don't make any sense. Why Fulton County? I mean, he also lost Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan in 2020. But Arizona and Fulton County, and Arizona really wasn't driven by him. That was driven by the crazies in the state. But, I mean, there's only one reason. Same reason why he sent out that tweet with the Obamas. There will be harsh judgment for the people involved. In the meantime, the thing that does worry me is that I think he'll be quite volatile. But eventually the truth is going to come. And people are going to realize that this is just a really unfortunate chapter in human history. Underneath, we have the devil, disinformation. That's their whole plan. The Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving of favors. Calling the FBI from the site when they were doing it. Why? Or the FBI calling him. Why? He clearly ordered it. I mean, that alone would be enough to make any evidence suspect. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and says that they've discovered something, because, that'd be a good distraction. I think Republicans have learned their lesson on this. Okay, so Virginia's gotten a little bit complicated. So there's a constitutional amendment that's supposed to be voted on in April that will allow the Democrats to change the maps. And the way it's worded is that they can do mid-decade redistricting if other states do it first, essentially. And one court said, no, you can't do this. Then the appellate court that took it said, this is too important. We're going to send it straight to the Supreme Court. We're waiting to hear from them on whether they're going to, rule on it. There's a couple inconsistencies here that really don't make sense to me. But so first of all, this would be approved by the voters. The thing that's not allowing Democrats to redraw the districts was approved by the voters. So either both aren't lawful, or, the Supreme Court is controlled by conservatives. They're not necessarily MAGA conservatives, but let's see, what do we need to know here? Messages being sent. The Hermit card, isolation. This isn't happening in a vacuum. I think if this were to sound like it's going down, Illinois suddenly redraws their maps. I think that's what happens. I think Maryland goes ahead and redraws their map. Even in New York's going to have to redraw their map, and New York gets really aggressive. I just don't think that, regardless of what happens, it damages the chances of the Democrats in 26. Remember, these are seats Democrats weren't expected to pick up anyhow. So, but they were to offset the seats that might get redrawn in Florida, which is not a done deal. The Supreme Court of Virginia probably feels like it doesn't have any good choices. Expect there to be a lot of emphasis placed on why the state legislature did what it did. Betrayal. I don't feel terribly good about this, I'll be honest with you. Fiery messages coming forward. Discernment. The Queen of Wands. Volatility, the Moon card. And not having what is being sold, the Four of Cups. So I think there's a lot of messages that are told to the courts. I think a lot of them we will find heartbreaking, but I think a lot of the arguments aren't actually going to be bought by the courts. Like we might think that they're going to do something and then they don't. I think they'll use their discernment. I think they realize that this law applies evenly to Republicans and Democrats. It's just Democrats are in control. And there's really no good choice here because it's kind of like, well, if this particular constitutional amendment, which has not been passed, isn't valid, then the one that said state legislatures can't do this isn't valid either. So it's a little bit more complicated, I think. Virginia's in a vacuum here, but the other states will act if they need to. I think we'll hear a lot about how this law was passed, and I think it's kind of uncertain what's going to happen. If the Supreme Court rules that the voters don't get a say, that doesn't sound very good for them, right? And they could do kind of what Utah did, and the Democrats suddenly stacked the Supreme Court, right? So, I think there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes here to find a resolution that keeps things intact. My guess is that Virginia gets to proceed. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if the Supreme Court of Virginia says no, and the United States Supreme Court for sure will say no, they're not going to get involved. They've made that abundantly clear with their rulings. Okay, I was moving to Putin's health, and the Three of Swords flew out. And let's take a look at Putin's health, Netanyahu's health, and then I want to relook at, will Vice President Harris run? Just Putin's health. We haven't heard much about him lately, or maybe I'm just not paying attention. I don't know. Okay, our card for the Felon in the upper left. Complete and utter downfall. It's like they're tied together. I don't know why I keep getting this energy that Putin, the Felon, and Netanyahu are kind of, they go out at the same time. It's like the end of the same energy. It's, the King of Cups in the upper right. This has been becoming commonplace as well. It's our card for Democrats or democratic ideals, if you want. Putin's quite ill, the Four of Swords. The Strength card at the center, I think he's staying quiet because I think he's trying to manipulate the Felon here. Logic and consistency, the King of Swords. Justice, balance, karma. Illusion and delusion, the Seven of Cups. Yeah, and the Death card, I'm not surprised at all. So I think him and the Felon and Netanyahu are intrinsically tied. The fact that he's gone quiet makes me think that he's quite ill. I don't think he's long for the earth either. I don't think it's this year. But, I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but I don't think it's that soon. It's karmic. Him being quiet is a good sign for the people of Russia. I do think that he's quite ill, and when he falls, anything really can happen. So the Four of Swords, the Ten of Swords, and then the Seven of Cups. And I think if we just use our logic and discernment about it, things are probably going to continue in a similar fashion as when Putin was there. Although, it's possible there could be an uprising. It's definitely a crossroads in his life, though, right now. He feels like he's close to the end. All right, let's take a look at Netanyahu, and then we'll finish with Vice President Harris. What can you show us about Netanyahu, please? His health. What can you show us about Netanyahu, please? Yeah, I think it's... I think his situation is also quite precarious. It's interesting. The Felon in the upper left again, the King of Pentacles. It's like they're just all really tied. Victory, the Six of Wands. Whose victory? That's the question. New beginnings, the Fool card. The Queen of Cups, emotional messages coming forward. We're still getting horrible messages coming forward of all the atrocities that have happened since he's started bombing Gaza. The Knight of Cups, again, more messages. Mis and disinformation, toxicity. You know, he embodies this idea of using his 36% of the people that actually voted for his party to take the whole country into something that I don't think they really want to do. The Six of Pentacles, repayments of loans and debts. I do think eventually it'll be exposed that he helped the Felon in the 2024 election by refusing ceasefire deals, things like that. I think all of that will get exposed. The Queen of Wands, discernment. And again, karma. They're all tied together. The Felon, you know, messages about the Felon and people like Netanyahu, or well, they're all kind of karmically tied. I think when one goes, it's not long after all of them are at least out of power, if not gone as well. I do think it'll be exposed that he tampered with the 2024 election in the sense of foreign interference. You know, I think we'll get more messages coming out. And I think Israel wants a fresh start. We'll see there is some elections, not for just for seats in the Knesset. So we'll see how those go this year. I do think eventually there's a victory here for the people. I think it's emotional and it's discernment. And, you know, I was thinking about teaching an advanced class in tarot, and this is kind of a good example of being careful on how to read the cards, because the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands, cups are water and wands are fire, so they kind of neutralize each other in a sense. Anyhow, if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll let you know when I start it up. And again, he just really embodies the devil energy. You know, the Six of Cups, intergenerational relationships, and messages about money. I think, you know, health-wise, I think he's okay. Power-wise, I think he's got a lot of problems. I don't think that he will do okay. I think people want change. Okay. So what about vice president here? So if you've been following the 2028 Democratic primary polls, which I know it's early and they're probably mostly meaningless, she still tops the charts. Beats Gavin Newsom, who's second, and then Pete Buttigieg is usually third. So, all right, will she run? What do we need to know about that? I just don't think she's done. I don't know if she runs for president, though. I mean, part of me thinks she does. And then I say, no, she's not going to want to deal with that. Maybe she'll want to be attorney general. Then I'm like, I don't know about that either. So let's just take a look, see if the cards can't give us some insight here. I think she's thinking about it. especially with the poor economy. I mean, you know, the truth is that unless something really drastic changes, I mean, the stock market's way up, right? But people don't feel good about the economy. This is, you know, not that uncommon, similar to the Biden vibe, right? So, you know, probably most likely any Democrat will win in 2028. It probably doesn't really matter like who they run, as long as they're not, you know, falling down and slurring their speech. I think they'll beat probably Vance, but it could be somebody else. The challenge for her is getting over the wounds and the pains, the Five of Wands of the past. Does she really want to go through that again? And that's what I've always felt. You know, the Queen of Swords in her subconscious, logically she knows she probably can win. She also knows that this country is very racist and very misogynistic. And, you know, Democrats' path to victory, just like Republicans' path to victory, it's very narrow. There's only 7 swing states. So it'll be the same the next time around. Unless something drastic happens, in which case Democrats will win in a blowout. Republicans will never win in a blowout. That will just never happen. The Lover's card in the past, choices that she made that she perhaps, I don't even know if it's choices that she made that she regrets, or if it's the situation she was put into, to where like her one shot at running for president was kind of, she was just thrust into it, and I don't know that they ever really had a chance to show everything that she had to show. It was all so quick, and so many people questioned you know, whether she earned the spot or whether she was given it, and all those horrible things that were being said. The Two of Cups partnerships, I think her and Doug are on the same page, so that's good. The near future, the Hierophant, the Church, the Court, the Popes. You know, some people have suggested she'd make a good Supreme Court justice. I totally agree. She won't get a Supreme Court appointment, though. She's too old. That's just the blunt truth of it. You know, anymore if you're over 50, 55 tops, and she's going to be probably 65, I guess, by the time she gets there. So I just don't see it happening. The way she sees herself is on this grand adventure, the Fool card, the way others see her as fulfilling a wish, the first female president in particular. The hopes and fears is that she'd be able to bring the country out of the troubles. That's her hope and fear, by the way. The outcome card, though, is her walking away. And illusion and delusion. The Eight of Cups, then the Seven of Cups, and the King of Cups. I don't think she's made her mind. There's a lot of burdens involved here. Yes, she would do a good job. She'll have to make her decision relatively quickly. I mean, if she's going to line up staff and stuff, this needs to be ready to go by, you know, as soon as the November elections are over. So if I had to guess, I think she will announce she's exploring the idea and see what the reaction is, and then go from there. I don't think she's committed fully yet. Anyhow. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.